Imagine you're about to pitch a brilliant idea. Instead of refining your talk, you binge-watch shows all night. Morning comes, you're late and unprepared. Your own procrastination sinks your success. In 1957, Leon Festinger described cognitive dissonance. When our actions and beliefs clash, we feel intense discomfort and often change behavior to soothe it rather than adjust our beliefs. Your mind would rather dismiss your dream than endure that tension. Self-sabotage is not mere procrastination, it's just a big chunk of it. Self-sabotage is any unconscious way you work against your own goals. Sometimes it shows up as perfectionism. You drown in tiny details, so you never finish. Imposter syndrome. You talk yourself out of opportunities because you think you don't deserve them. Self-handicapping. You pick up distractions, late night partying, or favorite, I was sick, so you have an excuse if you fail. Or fear of success. You shrink your ambitions to avoid standing out or facing new pressures. This is the 8th Law of the Human Nature series by Robert Greene. You can check previous ones out after this video. So let's just start this one with a thumbs up. Have you ever stood at the edge of victory only to turn away? Watched yourself unravel progress you spent years weaving? Why do we betray our own desires so effortlessly? There is a force within you, ancient and invisible, that resists the light of your ambitions. Jung called it the shadow, the sum of all you refuse to acknowledge, the instincts and fears buried like splinters beneath the skin of your consciousness. It is not evil, but wild, shaped by every rejection of your raw humanity. The shadow does not want your happiness, it wants familiarity, and familiarity is often found in suffering, in the grooves of old wounds worn deep by time. Self-sabotage is the shadow's language. When you cling to relationships that shrink your spirit or surrender to habits that hollow your potential, you are not weak. You are negotiating with a part of yourself that believes it is keeping you safe. The brain, in its primal logic, equates safety with repetition. Neuroscience reveals that neural pathways solidify with routine, even destructive ones. Each time you choose fear over growth, you etch the path deeper, until the detour becomes the default road. Stoics understood this war within. Epictetus argued that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Your shadow distorts your view. It whispers that failure is inevitable, that you are undeserving, that effort is futile. To the Stoic, this is not a flaw but a call to prosocion, vigilant attention. You cannot slay the shadow, but you can disarm it by dragging its lies into the light. Consider the sculptor who chips at marble not to destroy the stone, but to reveal the form trapped within. Your shadow is the excess marble. To carve it away, you must first see it. When procrastination strikes, ask, what fear am I avoiding? When envy gnaws, ask, what lack do I perceive in myself? The answer is rarely what you expect. A man who sabotages his career may secretly fear the loneliness of success. A woman who picks fights may dread the vulnerability of peace. Modern psychology frames this as avoidance, coping, a retreat from discomfort that breeds greater chaos. But the ancients framed it as a test of R8, excellence of character. Will you let the shadow dictate your life, or will you meet it as a reluctant teacher? There is no courage without resistance. Here lies the paradox. The very act of confronting self-sabotage requires enduring the pain it sought to help you escape. Yet in that endurance, you forge something unbreakable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The obstacle becomes the way." Your shadow will never vanish, but with each conscious choice, you dilute its power. You learn to distinguish the voice of instinct from the voice of habit. You stop romanticizing your suffering. You become a gardener tending to plots, the fertile soil of intention and the tangled weeds of the unconscious. Both need your attention. Ignore one, and it will consume the other. So ask yourself, what have I normalized that is slowly killing me? The answer is your starting point. Chapter 2. The Theater of Being. When was the last time you lied to yourself? Not the small, polite untruths we tell others, but the corrosive fictions you swallow to avoid staring into the abyss of your own reality. We are born into a world of roles: parent, lover, leader, outcast, labels we cling to like masks in a play we never auditioned for. Yet the greatest role you inhabit is the one you construct for yourself, the hero of your story, the victim of circumstance, the martyr of unseen battles. This is the persona, the curated self you present to the world and also to your own reflection. But beneath the mask lies a more dangerous deceit, the lies you believe about who you are. The Stoics named this doxa, blind opinion, the uncritical acceptance of appearances. Like smoke filling a room, these illusions distort vision. You mistake the smoke for the air itself. Consider the addict who claims control even as their life fractures, or the tyrant who calls cruelty strength. These are not mere lies. They are survival mechanisms. Evolution wired us to prioritize coherence over truth. A 2006 study by von Hippel and Trivers revealed how the brain subconsciously edits memories and beliefs to protect the ego, a process called self-deception. We rewrite history to cast ourselves as heroes, villains as justified. The mind would rather live in delusion than face the vertigo of ambiguity. But here lies the trap. The more you perform the role, the more you become it. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Each repetition of "I am broken" or "I am superior" carves a neural canyon until the fiction feels like fate. Seneca warned of this. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Your persona is not a lie you tell, it is a lie you live. To dismantle the theater, you must first notice the stage. When you say "this is just who I am," ask, "who built this prison?" When you resent others for misunderstanding you, ask, "what have I refused to show?" The persona thrives on unexamined contradictions. A leader who demands loyalty but fears intimacy. An artist who craves recognition but despises scrutiny. These fractures are not flaws, they are clues. Modern psychology calls this cognitive dissonance, the mental toll of holding conflicting truths. But the Stoics framed it as a failure of prohairesis, the will to align actions with inner virtue. Your persona is not your enemy. It is a distorted reflection of your unmet needs. The man playing the martyr secretly hungers for agency. The woman performing invincibility trembles at the thought of being truly seen. To escape the theater, you must strip the play of its spectacle. Write down the stories you repeat about yourself. Dissect them like a scientist. Is this true or merely useful? Practice apathy in the ancient sense. Not indifference, but detachment from false narratives. Imagine your persona as a character in a play. What would the audience see? The trembling hands beneath the confident voice, the loneliness veiled by charm. This is not an act of destruction, but of excavation. The first lie you accepted about yourself, often planted in childhood. A boy told he's too sensitive becomes a man armored in cynicism. A girl praised only for obedience learns to bury her rage. These lies fossilize into identity. Yet, here, too, the Stoic finds power. Epictetus taught that circumstances don't make the man, they reveal him. Your persona is not your essence. It is the scar tissue formed around old wounds. To tear it off is to risk bleeding, but beneath lies raw, unformed potential. What the Greeks called dunamis, the capacity to become what you are not yet. So ask, what lie have I polished so brightly I mistake it for a truth? The answer is your script. Burn it. Chapter 3. The War of Opposites. When did you last feel split in two, drawn toward a desire that repels you, or repulsed by a truth that might set you free? What if your deepest conflict is not a flaw, but a doorway? Within every soul rages a silent war, not between good and evil, but between competing versions of the self. The dutiful parent clashes with the restless wanderer. The visionary creator battles the critic who demands practicality. Jung named this enantiodromia, the inevitable emergence of an opposite force when any quality grows too rigid. The Stoics saw it as a failure to live kata physin, in accordance with nature's balance. To deny one pole is to summon its shadow. Self-sabotage often masquerades as rebellion against these false dichotomies. Consider the workaholic who suddenly implodes their career, not out of laziness, but because their neglected need for rest morphs into self-destruction. Or the pacifist who erupts in rage, their suppressed anger now a wildfire. The psyche, like the body, seeks equilibrium. Deny it, and the pendulum swings harder. Modern psychology echoes this in reactance theory, the urge to reclaim freedom when autonomy feels threatened, even if the threat is self-imposed. A student raised under oppressive discipline may sabotage academic success to assert control. Here, self-destruction becomes a twisted act of agency. The Stoics would nod. We are not victims of external forces, but of our ascent to fractured identities. Yet integration is not compromise. It is alchemy. The ancients called it coniunctio oppositorum, the marriage of opposites. Imagine fire and water. Alone, they annihilate. Combined with care, they create steam, energy, motion, your rigidity and spontaneity, your logic and intuition. These are not enemies. They are incomplete halves of a latent whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind is dyed by the color of its thoughts, but what if you've been painting in monochrome?" To transcend self-sabotage, you must hold contradictions without dissolving them. A leader can be both decisive and uncertain. A lover can ache for connection yet honor solitude. This is not hypocrisy, it is wholeness. The brain resists this. Neuroimaging studies reveal that cognitive dissonance activates the amygdala, the seat of fear. We crave consistency like a survival instinct, but nature thrives on paradox. Day and night, growth and decay. The oak tree does not debate whether to shed its leaves. It surrenders to the cycle. So how to navigate this war? Begin by mapping your battleground. When you feel torn, ask, what two truths am I refusing to let touch? A man clinging to sobriety might realize he's not fighting addiction, but the shame of his past self. A woman failed by ambition might mourn not the lost goal, but the identity she built around it. Practice amor fati, love of fate, not passive acceptance, but active engagement with the tension. Write 2 letters, one from each warring part of yourself. Let the perfectionist berate the dreamer. Let the rebel scream at the conformist, then burn them. The ashes hold your answer. History whispers lessons in duality. Roman consuls shared power to prevent tyranny. Yin and yang intertwined to generate life. Your psyche, too, demands such diplomacy. The parent and the child, the saint and the sinner, they are all your citizens. Govern them, but do not exile. Herein lies the Stoic's secret. There is no courage without vulnerability, no strength without tenderness. To avoid self-sabotage, stop seeking victory in your inner war. Seek instead a treaty. So ask yourself, what opposite have I exiled that now storms the gates of my peace? The answer is your invitation to cease fighting and begin alchemizing. Chapter 4. The Tyranny of Time. How many tomorrows have you bartered for today's comfort? How many yesterdays haunt the choices you make now? What if your greatest saboteur is not a part of you, but a phantom, time itself? We are creatures suspended between 2 illusions. The past we mythologize, and the future we idolize. The present, raw, unadorned, alive, is often treated as a waiting room. Yet it is here, in this overlooked moment, that self-sabotage takes root. You delay a difficult conversation, clinging to the lie of later. You numb yourself with distractions, fearing the void of now. Seneca grieved this. Life is long, if you know how to use it. But we are not taught to use it. We are taught to spend it, trading seconds for hollow comforts. The brain is complicit in this theft. Neuroscientists identify temporal discounting, a tendency to value immediate rewards over future gains. A 1999 study in Labson showed how this bias fuels addiction, debt, and procrastination. The limbic system, primal, impulsive, overrides the prefrontal cortex's logic. You eat the cake, skip the workout, binge the show. Not because you lack discipline, but because your mind is wired to prioritize certain pleasure now over uncertain salvation later. The future is abstract, the present is visceral. But the Stoics whisper an antidote: memento mori. Remember death, not as morbidity, but as liberation. Imagine your final hour. What will you wish you had dared? Regret is the fossilized remains of time misspent. The farmer who neglects to plant in spring cannot curse winter for his empty fields. Self-sabotage thrives in temporal dissonance, the gap between the self you are and the self you insist you'll become. I'll change tomorrow is the mantra of the damned. Yet tomorrow is a myth. There is only the eternal now, kairos, the opportune moment, revered by the Greeks. Your procrastination is not laziness, it is a refusal to face the gap between your current capacity and your idealized self. You'd rather bury the truth in busyness than confront the work of becoming. Consider the river. It does not cling to the rocks it passes, nor beg the ocean to wait. It flows. To resist the present is to drown in undertows of guilt and anxiety. Modern psychology calls this chronostasis, the illusion that time is stagnant, that you have endless chances. But the Stoics called it akrasia, weakness of will, the tragedy of knowing what is right, yet choosing otherwise. Here lies the pivot. You must stop seeing time as an enemy to outwit or a deity to appease. It is a mirror. How you spend your days is how you spend your life. The alcoholic who vows to quit after one more drink, the writer who waits for inspiration, they are not failing. They are rehearsing an identity. You become what you do, not what you promise. To break this spell, practice negative visualization. Imagine losing what you take for granted: health, love, freedom. Feel the visceral pull to act now. Then channel that urgency. Split your life into chronos, clock time, and kairos, moments that matter. Let the first inform you, but let the second define you. A paradox. The more you fixate on fixing your future, the more you drain the present of its power. The student, obsessed with success, forgets to learn. The lover scheming to keep their partner forgets to cherish them. Goals are compasses, not cages. So ask yourself, what moment are you fleeing or fetishizing that keeps you from the life you crave? The answer is your bridge. Walk it. Chapter 5. The Crucible of Wholeness. What if the enemy you've been fighting is the salvation you've sought all along? When did you last offer mercy to the parts of yourself you've condemned as weak? Self-sabotage does not end in triumph or defeat, but in surrender, not to the shadow, but to the truth that you are both the prison and the key. The final act of liberation is not conquest, but integration. To stand whole amidst your contradictions, as a tree stands firm between earth and sky, roots in darkness, and leaves in light. Modern psychology calls this self-compassion in Neff by 2003. The radical act of extending kindness to the fragmented self. Studies reveal that individuals practicing self-compassion exhibit lower anxiety and greater resilience, not by eliminating pain, but by ceasing to war against it. The brain, with its neuroplastic grace, rewires when met with acceptance, not judgment. A 2013 study by Kang et al. Found mindfulness, a non-violent awareness of the present, reduces reactivity to emotional pain. You need not forgive your flaws, only stop treating them as invaders. The Stoics championed this unity. Amor fati, love of fate, is not passive resignation. It is the alchemy of transforming leaden struggles into golden wisdom. Epictetus wrote, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well." Your self-sabotage, your fear, your fractured persona, these are not obstacles. They are the raw materials of your becoming. Consider the blacksmith's forge. Fire that melts metal is the same fire that tempers steel. Your darkest impulses, the urge to flee, to hide, to destroy, hold a coded message. The workaholics, burnout whispers, rest is sacred. The perfectionist's paralysis murmurs, imperfection is human. To integrate these voices is not to indulge them, but to honor their roots. Herein lies the paradox. Wholeness demands the courage to be incomplete. The child who felt unsafe learns control. The adult must relearn trust. Neuroplasticity ensures no habit is eternal, but change requires dwelling in the discomfort of metamorphosis. The liminal space, where old identities dissolve before new ones form. How to begin? Listen. When shame arises, ask, what ancient wound does this protect? When anger flares, what boundary must I honor? These are not symptoms to cure, but guides to heed. The Stoics' prohairesis means moral character grows not by sheer will, but by aligning with nature's rhythm, seasons of action and rest, giving and releasing. Imagine your life as a river. Self-sabotage is the dam of resistance. Integration is the flow that carries you, sediment and all, toward the ocean of your potential. You need not purify the water, you need only remove the blocks. So ask yourself, what have I disowned that might yet set me free? The answer is your invitation to step into the crucible and emerge unbroken. So this is the end of this video. I hope you've liked this in-depth analysis. Now I wish you to watch our previous loss in this book. And we also completed the series on Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. You can watch that too. The choice is yours. Thanks for watching. Peace.